We have a few things to get into on today's episode of the Rams Digest. We're going to dive into the Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford situation a little bit more, talk details about the money and cap savings and all that good stuff, as we got a kind of interesting response from some Ram fans in the comments in the last video I made. We're also going to break down the possibility of the Rams being contenders next year, right? If they bring some guys back, we're going to talk about, are they pretenders or are they contenders? We're also going to talk about the rookies and maybe the upcoming draft class, a potential pick at the 26th pick, all on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Josh Rahidon. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and press the subscribe button now, as 81.8% of you guys are watching the videos but still not subscribed to the channel. Do me a favor, press that subscribe button now so you don't miss any daily Rams content here all off season. Let's get into this first story first, as a couple people had iffy responses on the Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford situation, right? Many Rams fans in the comments were talking about keeping Cooper Kupp, keeping Matthew Stafford. And so with that being said, I kind of want to bring this topic up. If you do bring back Matthew Stafford, if you do bring back Cooper Kupp, are you really truly contending for a Super Bowl? Or are you pretending to do so by bringing back this team because of the way the year went and the way the year ended and all that good stuff? And I don't want to offend any Rams fans out here who are going to be mad at me for no matter what I say. Someone's going to get mad at me, right? But first, let's bring this first story up here, right? Cooper Kupp, he said it himself, and I did talk about this a little bit last episode. Cooper Kupp's future is out of my control. This is his quote that he said post-game, right? As potential Rams divorce resurfaces. This was posted today, January 21st. And so it's not just me talking about this. I want you guys to acknowledge I'm not just bringing this up for no reason. If I was in the room, I said this already last video, and some people are going to forget. I said this last video. If I'm in the room with Les Snead, I say, Cooper Kupp is a Rams legend. Matthew Stafford is a Rams legend. Let's sit them down, have an adult conversation, and say, what do you guys want? Do you guys want to return with the Rams? Cooper Kupp was getting a little bit frustrated, right, toward this end of this year. If you guys don't remember, there was a couple of stories that came out, or maybe you missed them. A couple of stories came out. Cooper Kupp was not really going, he was going through it this year, right? Kind of not really super ecstatic about his role diminishing with the Rams in the offense and things like that. And not that he was mad. I think he understood for the most part why things were happening the way they were, but at the end of the day, it was a hard season for Cooper Kupp, and so that's kind of why I'm acknowledging his energy about the conversation. He says he wants to be in LA, but the energy and vibe he gives off is maybe he's considering moving on and going somewhere else. And it's technically out of his control because he'd have to be cut by the Rams. But if he was cut by the Rams, obviously Cooper Kupp is going to go elsewhere. And so I would have a conversation with Cooper Kupp, maybe talk about a contract restructure, maybe renegotiating the terms or whatever you want to do, give an extension for a couple more years. Whatever you want to do to talk with Cooper Kupp, talk with him, figure it out how you can make it work, or ask him if he wants to move on. And it's not because I don't want Cooper Kupp on the Rams. It's simply because the reality is, if you bring back Cooper Kupp and you bring back Matthew Stafford, this team we saw this year could compete with other teams, right? They could compete out there, but offensively, with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, and the offensive line fairly healthy, the Rams couldn't really consistently score over 25 points a game toward the end of the year. Of course, the Buffalo game was great, but let's be real. All the games, you add them all up, it wasn't looking great, right? You weren't scoring consistently over 25 points a game. And so outside of that Buffalo game toward the end of the year. So that's the concern, I think. You're not going to be able to win Super Bowls scoring 20 points a game. I just don't think I don't think it's something you can expect out of your defense to hold everyone to under 20. And so that's kind of my concern with the offense. I think if you do bring those guys back, it's out of respect for them and not out of competing for a Super Bowl. Do you guys get what I'm saying when I say that? And it's not to say that if Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford come back next year and then win a Super Bowl, you guys can say, Josh, you said they couldn't win. I'm not saying they can't win. I'd be super ecstatic if Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp came back and helped the Rams win a Super Bowl. But if I was strictly thinking about the production on the field, strictly thinking about their age, the cap savings, the money that they have on their contracts, and this is what I'm saying. If you traded Matthew Stafford because he wanted to move on, again, I don't want to trade him unless he wants to move on. If Matthew Stafford comes to you and says, you know what, I think it's time to move on. Cooper Kupp says, I think it's time to move on. Let us go play somewhere else. You can trade Matthew Stafford post June 1st, which would start the new league year in terms of money and things like that. And you can cut Cooper Kupp post June 1st. This is if you have that conversation and say that they want to move on. Okay, let's not get mad here. If you do that, this is what I'm saying. The Rams would then open. I did this math here. This was me post making those moves. I forget the website. Let me actually make sure I get the website a little bit. So I give it some love. If you guys want to go check this out yourself, I forget what it's called, but I'll look it up right now after. $88 million the Rams would have in cap space if you traded Matthew Stafford and you cut Cooper Kupp post June 1st, start of the new league year. That is why I'm having this conversation. I'm simply saying that if you truly wanted to just try to compete for a Super Bowl, you said this team is really good. Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, Kobe Turner. The defense is looking good. Cam Kitchens. Maybe you bring back Akila Witherspoon or you find a new cornerback, whatever. Bring in some new linebackers or whatever it is. You beef up that defense. Spend a little bit of money there on defense. You could spend a lot more money if you have more money and you move on from Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Now, yes, I get it. You would say, well, Josh, we don't have a quarterback. So what are we thinking here? I understand that. That's where you have to kind of have that contingency plan. I'm not just saying trade Matthew Stafford for no reason. If you want to keep Matthew Stafford, that's fine. We'll change the cap space here. But speaking on Cooper Kupp, because Matthew Stafford, it feels more like he decides. If he wants to retire, then it's over. If he wants to play, I think he's going to be a Ram, right? Cooper Kupp, it feels like you got to have that conversation with him, right? Because the vibe's kind of a little bit off, right? I think he wants to be in LA, generally speaking, but he might want to move on. And if he does want to move on, you can cut him. You can save about $30 million in the cap space, or 20-something-ish million dollars in the cap space. And that's where you can spend money on defense. And you move on from Cooper Kupp and you draft a receiver, second, third round, whatever, and you have Jordan Whittington play more snaps and maybe bring back DeMarcus Robinson or whatever it is. And you have that team for the most part together. You just move on from a guy like Cooper Kupp if that's what he wants. And so that's kind of where I'm kind of having that conversation of I think if you're truly trying to contend, Cooper Kupp really wasn't doing that much on the field for you this season consistently, I want to say. He had a pretty solid season, I think about 700 yards, right? 60-plus catches on the year. But toward the end of the year, he's tapered off. His stats tapered off. I'm just being honest, right? That's just really what happened. I know there's going to be comments upset about what I'm saying, but I'm just simply acknowledging, again, that is kind of the situation you're in. Cooper Kupp seems like maybe you want to move on. If you do, you move on and you go from there. That's just kind of where I'm at, and that's where I'm saying. But if you do bring those guys back, I'm just not sure that's the clearest route to winning a Super Bowl. I know the team played well this year. I just don't know if another year older of Cooper Kupp, another year older of Matthew Stafford specifically being together for the amount of money they're being paid means you're just a couple pieces away from winning a Super Bowl. I think you're a couple pieces away from still contending. I just don't know if that's the route I would take if I'm specifically trying to win a Super Bowl next year. If I was trying to win a bowl next year, I think I would maybe cut those or move on from those guys and just try something new. But if you are, again, for the sake of argument, you want to bring those guys back because they're legends, bring them back. That's kind of where I'm at, and that's my mentality, if you guys get what I'm saying. I hope I didn't offend anyone, which I know someone's going to be mad at me in the comments. But speaking of that, we can move on to speaking about how can the Rams continue to be legitimate contenders. Okay, let's keep Matthew Stafford. Let's keep Cooper Kupp. For those who are arguing with me and don't want me to move on from those guys, again, they're legends. Keep them on the team. I agree. I'm just exploring other options. But if you want to contend for a Super Bowl next year and you do bring those guys back, okay, there is still a chance and there's a route. And here's 11 reasons why. Shout out to Cam De Silva for posting this. But I do want to only highlight three kind of keys that I think make more sense for the Rams to become true contenders. And there are a few keys here. So here we go. Let's take a look at it. The key here would be one. They have one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, right? We saw that this year. Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, they are those guys. You got to talk about Brian Young in the mix, Kobe Turner. With all the rest of their depth on the defensive line, this team is already pretty good. You maybe want to beef up the interior defensive line, maybe get a big run-stopping D tackle next to Kobe Turner, maybe something like that. Again, a couple linebackers who are more downhill guys. Then maybe, you're talking about a really, really, really good pass rush along with a solid run defense. That's kind of really all they kind of need to pair together to kind of really complete this defense, I think. And yeah, that's one reason why I think the Rams are looking at a situation where they are possibly true contenders if this defense can step up, right? We talked about them overperforming all year. Can they step up, though, and consistently perform that well all year long? The end of the year, they really picked it up big time. Can they take that and play that way majority of the season? You can't expect them to always hold guys under other teams under 10 points, but can they consistently stretch that out for 17 weeks and into the playoffs? That's kind of what you're hoping for this team to grow moving forward. They found a superstar in Jared Verse, and so can you keep building on that in the draft and in free agency as well this offseason? That's kind of a key for the Rams moving forward. And then we could talk about their next really reason why you can say they're legitimate contenders. They got a little bit of cap space, right? Even if we're talking about keeping Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, we're still talking about $46 million that the Rams have at this moment in terms of cap space. So you can spread out some contracts, especially if you sign guys for 2-3 years. All of a sudden the cap hit this first year would be a little bit lower. You sign a couple guys on defense, sign a couple guys on offense, bring back a couple of guys like Alaric Jackson at left tackle, some offensive line depth, things like that. this team really could compete, I think. And that's kind of the goal here. They can spend a little bit of money and really get themselves in a better position moving forward. Again, I think we kind of are forgetting because of how good they played at the end of the year that the offense was struggling right toward the end of the season. That's kind of the concern here. Is Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp kind of that are they gonna be able to grow upon what they had this year, or are they gonna decline? What are the odds, right? And I think they're leaning more towards declining, and that's kind of the concern. Can that offense move the ball a little bit more consistently than they did toward the end of the year this season? That's kind of the concern here. But you spend a little money, maybe you get a third receiver, maybe better than Demarcus Robinson. Not that Demarcus Robinson didn't make his fair share of plays, but maybe you get a third solid receiver there, or you invest in another offensive lineman. You already have the running backs there, so that's kind of the pieces you kind of really be looking and investing in on the offensive side of the ball. So, kind of interesting stuff to look at there. And then we could pull up this last reason I kind of think is a reason why you would look at the Rams as legit contenders, why they probably won't move on from Matthew Stafford for sure. And will be hesitant about moving on for Cooper Kupp, not just because they're legends, but because there's not really a heavy favorite in the NFC West, right? I think that's kind of a thing we need to highlight here is that the Rams, right? They're 10-7, and the Niners are on a decline. They're probably only going to get worse from here. The Seattle Seahawks, they're solid, but with Geno Smith getting older, are they really going to get much better next year? We've already been seeing the DK Metcalfs of the world not being as productive. Tyler Lockett's dropping off in production. Yes, Jackson Smith and Jigba has been looking solid for them, but overall, I don't think we're really super concerned about the Seattle Seahawks. And then the Arizona Cardinals are kind of in that situation that we've been seeing them in for years. They're solid, but they're not. They're solid, but they're inconsistent. That's kind of their issue. So the Rams are probably going to be a favorite next year to win the NFC West, at least in that discussion for a team that could win the NFC West. So they just won it this year. So now it's going to be that conversation moving forward. Is because you have a chance to guarantee a home playoff game, you want to make sure you're as competitive as possible. So you want to build a contender because you have an opportunity to get into the tournament. And from there, who knows what can happen, as you saw them always beat the Philadelphia Eagles this year, right? So that's kind of the mindset here for the Rams. We'll see what happens moving forward. I do think there's a path for them being legitimate contenders next year. I just think they need to explore all their options and really look into what Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp want to do. And once you make those decisions, then you move forward with how legit of a contender you can be next season. That's kind of where it's at. And then we'll move on from that. So we'll talk about the rookie shining really quick. We'll go over this last couple stories as quick as I possibly can, just because I've been talking for a long time already, as I always do. But here's the all rookie team, right? Shout out to the I think it's called the Pro Football Writers of America. They gave out some awards themselves, and they have an all-rookie team here. They gave a shout-out to Jared Verse, shout-out to Braden Fisk, and Jordan Whittington, as all three of those guys made the Pro Football Writers of America Awards all-rookie team. So shout-out to the rookies for doing their thing. And then we can actually stay here, and we could pull up the next screenshot here as their defensive rookie of the year. Again, this is not for the NFL. This is for the Pro Football Writers of America. They voted defensive rookie of the year being Jared Verse. No surprises here. Shout out to Jared Verse doing his thing. Definitely something that's well deserved, and love seeing all the praise and love he's getting. It seems like the Rams have found a new superstar on defense, especially with his energy and his attitude that he has, right? It's pretty awesome to see. So shout out to Jared Verse and all those rookies doing their thing. So that's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, remember, do me a favor and press that subscribe button now. That's going to do it for me on today's episode. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I am out.